Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Madison Realty Capital, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, AmTrust Title, Customers Bank, Ariel Property Advisors, Capital One Bank, Sterling National Bank, Marks Paneth LLP, Meridian Capital Group. Additional funding has been provided by grants from Amarant Bank, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, B6 Real Estate Advisors, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, Citizens Bank, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handro Properties Handler Real Estate Organization, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, John Catsimatidis Red Apple Group, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Matone Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Group, RPW Group, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Merringore Family Foundation, and these friends. Oh, Crystal Apple. Tell me, what's going on in the condo market? You know, the government changed the laws on deductibility of interest and taxes. Then there's another new potential law that they're going to put a luxury tax on condominiums. Then there's the question of who wants to be in New York City in general, because it's a tough place to do business. So what effect are all this having on the condo market? I really don't know, so today I've brought two leading developers to provide their insight on the condo market in New York City. My guests include David von Spreckelsen, who's the president of Toll Brothers City Living, and from Israel, Lior Karuchi, who's the managing director of Mirav USA Development. So you've been with Toll Brothers now, David, for 15 years, right?
Yep.
How do you see the condo market in 2019 compared to the past 15 years that you've been doing business?
I would say it's an interesting time. I think the New York City economy is great. Everyone still wants to live here. We have people flocking in from all over the world. But we're at a time where we no longer have demand outstripping supply. I would say it's the reverse right now. So we have a situation where there's a lot of price competition, I would say at all levels of the market and in all neighborhoods in the market. And you've got to really, really know your buyer well. You have to execute every component of the building well, or you're going to have trouble in this market. And fortunately, we've been around long enough where we think we get enough right.
Have you seen some resistance because of the SALT, the limitation on the deductibility of interest and taxes?
Yeah, and I would say that's very recently, obviously, because the change just came through. But it's a combination of things, because there were many buyers who would go from one new development to another and always get 421A tax abatement, and so not really worry about their real estate taxes because they would be so low. Those programs no longer exist, so people are starting to get accustomed to paying full taxes, and condo is taxed disproportionately higher than single family, so it can be a hardship for people. But when they were able to write those taxes off on state and local, again, it wasn't so painful. So now this is the first year where largely you don't have tax abatements in any of these buildings, and you have people not being able to write off their taxes. And so for the first time, even well-to-do, well-heeled buyers are looking at their monthlies and saying, I don't know if I'm going to buy here now with these monthlies at these levels. And you know, for some of our bigger units and our more expensive units, you're talking about real estate taxes that can be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $80,000 a year. And when you can only write off 10,000 of that, it's significant.
That's federal. What about the state?
That's what I'm talking about. Writing off the, you mean that city taxes or?
No. We know that you're limited under the law for federal to $10,000.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
what about under your
That's
state?
that's the state and local write-off you're allowed to do is 10,000.
So the same thing is applicable for both places.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Tell me a little bit about Minrav and how do you decide to come into the Big Apple and follow the lead of people like my friend Mr. von Sprekelsen of Topical?
So Minrav is a public company from Israel. Became public in 1983, doing a lot of residential and commercial real estate business throughout Israel. In 2014, there was a decision, a strategic decision to come and start an operation here in the US. We started actually outside of New York. We did about 10 deals in Florida, in North Carolina, in Dallas, Texas, all multifamily, some of them development into multifamilies. But as years continue, we were looking at the margin of profits and valuations outside of New York became really high and cap rates became low. So we said, let's go into New York and find the margins. And the margins here are in the condo business, ground up developments. We started with a small project in 2016 in Williamsburg.
So what are you doing over there?
We're doing over there 14 units, a small project in a great location. For us, location is all about transportation, retail and residential around. And we developed that with parking spot below. You are 2 stops from the city, great location. From there we decided to continue and look for a site in the city. It wasn't easy, but we ended up buying a site on the Upper East Side in Yorkville, 90th between First and York. And over there we are developing 21 units in a great location as well. I think the 2nd Avenue subway was a strong decision of why we should invest over there. And then we got, as we say, this is the Big Apple. We got the appetite to do things more like the developments we do in Israel. And we ended up buying a site on 27th Street and 3rd Avenue, which is 150,000 square feet, 100 units. And over there again, location, transportation. We think that over here, for the mid-market, development for the mid-market condo, there's still a lot of demand. As long as you buy right and you sell right and you understand what your buyer is looking for. And that's what we're doing over here.
Now, when you brought up the 3 different projects, and my memory is pretty good, I remember areas that Mr. von Sprekelsen has been involved with. One of the individuals involved with the first development in Williamsburg was David. Let's talk about Williamsburg then and Williamsburg today. When you developed Williamsburg, you developed the first condo, right? One of the first.
One of the first, yeah. We did 3 buildings in Williamsburg. This goes back to 2006 or so. We got started there. The first site we bought before the zoning went through, but it had a variance already, so we were able to do residential, and that's right across from the waterfront park at North 8 in Kent. And that was a small 40-unit building that we did.
Similar to your project on Power Street, right?
Yep.
And that was, successful. We saw things going well when we were starting to sell the condos there. And then we got into a much larger deal with Ron Moelis and Jay Furman, and we did Northside Piers, which were 2 towers and a total of 450 condos. very big project. And I would say the difference between now and then was then you didn't really have a lot of the services that you have now. It was spotty in terms of
Right, yeah,
shopping
limited
and
retail and
restaurants and
everything.
bars. And
Yeah.
so we had people who would get off the train at Bedford and they'd walk all the way, down to the water, and they would not see a lot in between the subway and our site. And they would say, well, where's the supermarket? Where's this? And so I never really thought we were pioneering when we bought there to develop there, because I personally moved into the Dumbo neighborhood in '98, where there wasn't much there, but it was one stop from Manhattan. It had views. You were by the water. I thought, there's every reason to buy here. But there were some people who were reluctant early on to buy in Williamsburg, and they waited until there was more infrastructure there.
In today's market, what's selling? Are the lower price units for the first-time home buyer more saleable in your opinions, both opinions, or is it people want larger units? But where do you see the highest demand today?
I think that today, as always, location and transportations are the main thing, but looking into the challenges of the market right now, efficiency of the units, layouts, and price point are strong indicators of what people are seeking. If you see buyers coming and making their decision, today it takes them maybe 30 days as opposed to a week to make a decision if they want this project and unit or the other one. They're really evaluating what is the price point are we buying, what is the layout of the unit, and obviously the carrying cost.
Yeah, I would say, I probably did this show about 5 years ago, one of the times when I did it, and then everyone was looking at the premium that you're getting for bigger units. And we actually had a couple of buildings where we reprogrammed what we had originally designed to make bigger units. And they sold for a while, but then that started to really dissipate. And with the general price appreciation over the years, you were just starting to get to price points that were just not affordable to enough people. So we have, a few years ago, like Lior, started to do more efficient units, more small units. We started doing many more studio apartments than we used to, many more one bedrooms than we used to. And it's
So
just a
for
function
my
of being-
audience view, what is it, in both of you, what is the square footage for a studio, a one bedroom and a two bedroom and a larger unit in a Toll Brothers and in your project?
So today, we'll do studios at, 500 square feet, 450 to 500 square feet. One's more around 7, and, two's like 11. No, 11.
11.
But that's much smaller than we had done them in the past,
Yeah.
because, part of being a luxury builder is also the luxury of space. So you want the 5-piece bathroom, you want the walk-in closet. It ends up increasing the square footage. We're finding now that people are really, really focused on price more than anything
agree.
else. And in order to deliver at a price, you need to start to shrink
So
the space.
are you reducing the quality of the amenity in the kitchen to meet the lower price point?
Not the quality.
No, I'm not
Mostly
saying
size,
I'm-
really.
Look,
Size.
so the size.
Yeah. Let me give you an example of a project we're doing right now on 52nd Street between 2nd and 3rd. If you look on 3rd Avenue, there are a few developments over there. They used to do one bedrooms over there, about 800 to 900 square feet units. In today's market, the price point would be $1.6 to $1.8 million for a one bedroom. That's a price point in today's market the buyer is just not willing to pay. We reduce to the 600, the 650 square feet, and you are at the price point of 1.3. That's a completely different market. They come in, it's attractive, and that's what they're looking for.
David?
Yeah, it's neighborhood specific, but in general, that's the direction that things are going in.
I think your comment is factual. It's neighborhood specific. Okay? The person who's going on 52nd Street might be working at the UN. They may have an office on the 3rd Avenue corridor. They may be working at the Hospital Row, as we call on York Avenue, in this situation. It's a different type of buyer than who's going to your Leonard Street property.
Yes, and no, because we're finding now for the first time ever that people are, again, really price conscious and looking around at everything and
So
saying,
it's like
these
me, what I
neighborhoods-
said before about the office. People are just searching the entire neighborhood. Are you seeing people making a decision within 30 days, or are people taking much longer to
It's
purchase?
generally much longer, unless it's it's your last remaining unit, it's immediate occupancy, and people
Right.
really want to be in that location. They have a reason to move quickly. But in general, people are really taking their time. There's so much to see, and I would say almost all of our buyers are coming with brokers now because it's just too daunting for a buyer to do all the legwork on their own. So they get a broker, and the broker's taking them to this building and that building and that building. And they're saying, wow, north of 110th Street now is a place that I would live, or going really far over to First Avenue. So they're really looking at everything now and weighing everything, and
Taking their time, yeah.
taking their time and really looking at price.
What about the luxury market? I mean, you have Park Avenue.
89th and Park. Yeah, we have one unit remaining there, and that was the first market that you saw get pretty sluggish. And we haven't really been developing anything for those specific markets in the last couple of years. So we're really trying to keep price points affordable to the majority of people at this point.
Now, when a purchaser comes in, what are they asking for you to do? Transfer tax, incentives? What are they asking? Is it a buyer's market today?
They're definitely negotiating on the closing costs. Try anyway on from transfer tax to the legal fees and credits or carrying charges for 6 months or for 12 months. There's all sort of negotiation tactics. I think they're being also directed by the brokers.
Yeah, pretty much across the board, anyone coming into a sales office today doesn't expect to pay full price and all closing costs. So they ask for a lot of stuff, and it's a back and forth.
So how much can I get off normally? I mean, and I'm not being facetious, okay? If
it really depends, again, on the building, the neighborhood, where you are in terms of delivery.
Sales, right.
If you're 18 months away, do I want to do incentives now when I'm not going to be able to deliver the building for 18 months anyway? If it's immediate occupancy and people can move in the next day and I want to close and get my money right away, then I might do a little bit more. But you're talking about a couple of percent when you talk about closing costs. Transfer tax and mansion tax and sponsor's attorney fee, if you add those three together, that's like 3% off. So that's something that, is people come in looking for. But there are deals that we do that are full price with no incentives at all. It really depends.
Same here. We, if to start the process, we will maybe negotiate some of those terms to begin the sales. But as we move along with the sales and get closer to delivery, then it's much tougher for the buyers to get those incentives from us.
What about the super brokers? I mean, one of the shows that my wife watches that I don't watch is the $1 million listings, where, they see the Josh Golds and the Ryan Seiferts and the other people over there, and the Eric, whatever his name is, Frederick.
Right.
Okay, they're seeing this. Are reality TV versus reality? What's happening? Are you having these luxury parties to bring in the brokers? Or what's really happening with these, these $1 million buyers?
Well,
with those shows, and what effect it has on the sales of your units?
Yeah. So I mean, we still do we do lots of broker events. We do parties. I would say I don't know that we've spent a fortune on big broker parties like maybe it was done in the past when there was a lot of glitz and glamour. There's so many new construction buildings on the market now that you could hold a party and there might be 3 other parties that night. So it's really, you really want to focus more than anything else on your product and your delivery and your message. And, if you do all that right, the big brokers will come.
Yeah.
How about social media?
That too.
That too, yeah.
It's important.
What about print? remember there was a time that the New York Times had a very large real estate section, then it went to nothing, and now I've been noticing there's been more print ads in the New York Times and Avenue and some of the other publications. Are you utilizing print media again?
Not much really. Like when we first introduce a project, we'll do a full page ad in the New York Times real estate section, but just as an introduction, a grand opening. After that, we're almost exclusively online. We find a much bigger bang for the buck online.
Using Instagram, Facebook?
Those things, and then, Real Deal online, New York Times online. We do a lot of e-blasts, emails to brokers and stuff like that, but people are really looking online more than in print these days.
What's the profile of the purchases that you're seeing in Brooklyn, you're seeing in your properties? Are they out-of-towners? Are we having the foreigners coming to buy properties? What do you...
So in Brooklyn, surprisingly, we find on a lot from Manhattan, from the Village area, coming to our Brooklyn project to check the product and to check the price, and also probably the transportation, how long it takes them from one side to the other, because they do work in the city. To profile them, in all of our projects, I think that we are approaching maybe the rental to first units, the upgrading from a unit to the second unit, young professionals, growing families. Usually, right now, I don't think it's a market that it's per neighborhood. They're looking for the deal. They will go to Williamsburg, the same that they will go to Park Slope, and they will go to other locations, even in the city, to check which deal is the best deal that they can do.
So you're saying out-of-towners, Manhattanites coming to Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
I think, did you mean like foreign buyers or?
I meant everybody.
Everybody,
okay?
yeah. So, we do see back and forth. We got at Pier House in Brooklyn Bridge Park, we got a lot of buyers coming from the Upper West Side. And we never really understood that connection totally, but that it existed.
And what about on Park Avenue? Where'd the buyers come from?
Park and 89th, that job, Upper East. There were some foreign buyers and some local New Yorkers. It's like across the street from Dalton, so there were some families. But we still see a lot of Chinese buyers in all of our buildings. And
now, the Chinese buyers, are they living there or are they investing? And that's my other question.
Both. Some are parents in China buying for their kids in New York. Some are investors from China who are just going to rent it out, and some are domestic Chinese Americans who are buying in our buildings. But it's been a good percentage of our buyers have been Chinese.
What about 23rd Street?
I would say, it's very similar there. It's a youngish buyer. We've been selling early in the sales have been primarily the smaller units, the studios, the more efficient 2-bedrooms. And those buyers, again, a lot of Chinese buyers, but then a lot of New Yorkers too.
At one time, we had a lot of Israeli.
They invest in the ground up now, in the development itself.
What's your thoughts about the condo developments in the Hudson Yards area and the far west side?
I think we learned in Williamsburg, where we did a really large development, 450 units, and it was at the time of the rezoning, and everyone else came in, and there was so much supply and price competition that we didn't do as well as we thought we might there. So we've been, since then, always trying to go where it's more supply constrained. And so we've avoided Hudson Yards, where you've got, all this land, you've got all these people coming in and doing buildings, and a lot of them are condo right now. And so I don't know that.
Not in Hudson Yards. The condos are more in the High Line below 30th.
There too, but Hudson Yards has a number of big condo projects, and they're on the market.
Mostly all related.
Yes.
They're all related. And when you're talking about price point that you just mentioned, when your minimum price is $5 million, to me that's a high price point.
I agree, and I'm actually surprised to see the price per square foot that they're suggesting they're getting there. You never really know what people are getting. But yeah, they're big numbers, and I'm really surprised. I guess people like brand new neighborhoods where everything is clean and sparkling, and you have a new subway there, the 7 line. But
You can't park a car over there.
listen,
You know, somebody I was there. They said, "Where do you park?" Underground. I said, "Unfortunately, there's no underground. It's the train depot."
but that's an interesting thing that you bring up, because we have typically provided parking where we could in our buildings because it's a nice amenity, and we usually sell the spaces. So you can buy a condo, you can buy a space, and you have the convenience. You get in the elevator, you go right up to your unit. People aren't buying parking like they used to. People are relying on Uber and Lyft and ride sharing and renting cars, and they don't want to have the responsibility of a car to park.
So I think, in essence, we're saying that my apple might be a little dull, but it's really because it's growing. It's the other apple over there. There's more product coming on the market. There's not that much demand for the additional product, but we're not really in a terrible time. Well-priced condominiums, which meet a certain size in certain different neighborhoods, are doing well. Potential taxes of a luxury tax will have an effect, but we're in New York City and people want to be here from all around the world.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank David, I thank Lior, and see you next week.
Thank you.